camera hook.
Mics are hot.
I got these two on the phone. That one's the only one we got to push a button on. Got sound effects.
Yeah. That's the sound of the Chicago hand job in the background by Whiskey Jim. Welcome to season 4, episode 2. That's what she said. And
Wow.
all right,
I got nothing.
you guys all walked right into that one.
Yeah.
Good break.
Good break.
So should we drink this right now? So we just throw up right away and get the episode over?
Well, I don't know about that.
Exit
I
the
don't
room
know.
if you're gonna puke.
So it's interesting.
Or just man up.
So just a overview of what we did in that first segment. I mean, we covered a lot of things that I don't think any of us expected to cover, but I think it was good. It was constructive. I learned a lot, and it was.
What did you learn, Renee?
Well, what I learned, Jim, is not to pay attention to anything you say. No. In all seriousness, I did learn. If you want to go and change the episode, you have your cards that are. What is it going to be called?
Would you rather?
Would you rather? If you want to change it to what did you learn, and I'll answer that question right now. I did learn that there's
Tell me the story.
no. What I did learn, in all seriousness, is it's important to respect each and every person's view at this table, or generally in life, on their views of the cardinals, your cat, spirituality, how you connect with loved ones that have passed, loved ones that you have.
I hope it didn't come across as
no, not at all, not at all. And I said no,
Jim, it always comes across as that.
yeah, no, you always come across.
I'm offended.
You always come, Jim. You always come across crass as fuck. I mean, it's just like, but that's why I don't know if you've ever seen the video version, but One More puts a thing on there that goes across the bottom. The views of.
Yeah, I did
No,
the
but
subtitles.
in all seriousness, I do think that, and I think we've talked about this before. Maybe before you became on as a co-host, I know me and you have talked about it as a sidebar, and me and you have had some deep ramblings of a whiskey drinker kind of nights.
Deep thoughts.
Deep
by
thoughts.
Jack Handy. By
But
Chicago
I
Handy.
do think that as much as I personally, and I've shared this with you, we've had great talks about it. I'm not one of the most spiritual persons in the world.
People.
Whatever. Now you're the grammar.
Grammar Nazi.
I always
Law
was.
Nazi.
Is there anything he's not a fucking
Can we get
expert at?
Roscoe out here?
No.
Wine.
The editor. That's her.
Wow.
That's her nickname. The editor.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good thing she's the editor because, well, let's not even go there. It's a whole other squirrel thing. That's an
You just
episode.
segued, like-
Yeah. But I did. You asked what I learned
kinda like
in
NASCAR
that
left
first
turn.
segment. I learned that it's important to respect each other's feelings and your
Well,
views
and,
on it. So
and honestly, Yogi Iyer, then was
it's not Yogi. It's Yogini.
Either way, whatever.
I want to believe that,
Okay.
but I want to.
You're skeptical.
That's human nature.
Well, sometimes a bird is just a bird.
Sometimes. Right.
yeah. I think for most people probably is that.
Yeah. I'm not a big sunshine and lollipop person. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my wife looks for the best in everybody,
Yeah.
and I think the reason we get along so well is because I'm not that person. What's that?
Did you guys level off in the middle somewhere?
Yes, exactly.
Are you saying you're the polar opposite?
Yes.
So that's called yin and yang.
Yes, but it's not called Red Cardinal. It's
Not for you.
right, correct. I hope I'm wrong.
It's not about being right or wrong. It's what you open yourself up to, what you
I
manifest.
think it's a matter
what you
of being
want.
open-minded.
And what we talked at the break was, I don't understand why it happened all of a sudden with these cardinals who were around my
Right.
house.
Well, then
And I
there's
have
a
a
meaning.
feeling. But maybe it's someone I don't want to come check on me.
It's probably going to be the goose that shits on your head. Then.
Wow,
Or the condor.
that is perfect.
So I just want to tell you, I think it's obvious who she's aligned with here.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
So
sorry.
so how about let's do this. Let's get into segment 2
Two.
and go where we're going. And I've named this That's What She Said.
Episode 4. or
And
season
when I
4.
say, obviously, if anyone who's watched The Office or anything, and everyone knows that that's that crazy thing, That's What She Said, and it's comedic. Yes, it's a comedic title that I've put on this episode, but there's some underlying meaning here. And we pre-gamed on this, and we talked a little bit.
Yes.
And
They did.
so we're gonna, so I'm just gonna kind of throw this out there, and I'll give a little history on who you are for those that haven't tuned in, and then where you want to go with this is completely up to you.
Okay.
And we agree to that.
Sure.
So those of you that are not familiar with this, Yogini was in our season 1, and one more and myself have known Yogini for a long, long time. And her first episode was talking about the importance of what United States of America means to her, based on the fact that you came here as a young immigrant.
Correct.
And right now, there's a lot of negative connotation on the immigrant situation, which we won't get into. But you
'Cause they're
came
not
here,
immigrants.
I was ready.
yeah.
Sorry.
but you came here, under different pretenses, and you came correctly, and you saw
Legally.
the Statue of Liberty, and you did everything, and that was episode 1. And you talked about the importance of this
in
area and the positive environment you grew up in with your parents and your appreciation for this country and hardworking. And we've gone into all that. And I encourage everyone to go back to those episodes and listen to that. We don't have enough time to get into the depth of that. Her second episode, after accomplishing everything in the first episode, and in the second episode that we did with you, the second part of that episode,
Right.
we then talked into about your spirituality and the cardinal thing, and your name Yogini is all based on your yoga and everything that you've done with that, the positive vibes that come from that. In episode 3, you dropped the hammer, girl,
I did.
and you threw
Literally.
you dropped the hammer to Windy City Redneck Nation, and you let them know that although you are this immigrant that came in, you're appreciative of all of this. And you did refer to First Amendment and Second Amendment when we had that conversation, because I went back
Yes.
and listened to some of that.
Yes.
And then we went to the second one, and you talk about, yoga and the importance in your life and everything. And then when we dropped the hammer in that third episode, I think a lot of people were blown away. We've had some conversations about this, and that's when you
Yes.
let everyone know your belief in the Second Amendment and how that led you into be a competitive shooter
Yes.
with firearms.
Yes.
And so I encourage you to go back and listen to those episodes and get the backstory, because the conversation we're about to have, if we're going to have it, and it's completely up to you.
Okay.
If at any point you go like this, we'll change.
Okay.
You know that we can talk about the Chicago hand job right away. It's our segue. We'll just go right into that.
We'll say, Whiskey Jim, grab your cards.
Yeah. Yeah. Whiskey Jim, grab your balls. But so
Got 'em.
I'm just
Got 'em
we'll,
both.
we'll just go there. So in that third episode, or that third part of that episode, we talked about your competitive shooting, and you're an RO, range officer. You're doing all that. We're talking all safety and everything. So where we go with this is completely up to you, and I'll set it up this way. Unfortunately, I'll just say, befell to some bad luck. Correct?
Correct.
We want to chalk it up that way. So
Yes.
since then, and it's been a long time since you've been on here, there's been plenty of opportunity for us in our relationship, one more in your relationship with him, because we've kept in touch, even though you had this setback. Yeah, good. Thank you. Just to wait. And he reached out to you yesterday and said, "Hey, do you want to come on?" And I was totally cool with that. And when you responded, I got to tell you, I put it on him. And I did. I absolutely put it on him. Not that I was uncomfortable doing it, but I didn't know if you were ready. And I didn't know if you wanted to go this route. I don't even know if you want to go this route. We'll figure it out together amongst the four of us with you and wherever you want to go. But you had an accident with the firearms that I believe, if there's anything, with every negative and every bad thing that happens to people, you always find the positive that can come out of it. I will say this to you, and I will look you in the eye when I say this. I don't think anyone other than you could have pulled off what you've pulled off. I couldn't. And if you want to get teary-eyed, like I'm getting teary-eyed now, I'm totally fine with it. But all of the things that you've done and the things that we talked about jokingly in this first segment, and we get to this point, if you don't have that attitude that you've had, this sense of spirituality and everything that's going on, in this belief that things can get better, you went to a point to where Yogini, I don't know how much worse they could have actually been. But if anyone pulled this off, you did. You defied the odds. And I know that we've had conversations. You've had conversations with one more where your doctors are just like, what the fuck, lady? How did you pull this off? You're like, and you've done all these things. And I only believe we've had conversations. I'll get rid of that tear. We've had conversations about all kinds of other negative things unrelated to this. Because we just talk about life in general. Right.
We do, yes.
And you're just like, are you fucking kidding me that this happened? And da-da-da-da. But you go back, I think that you find that all those things that you went through and you continue to go through, because this is never going to be over for you. You've got this for the rest of your life.
Correct.
So fill us in. I know you told me a little bit, but everybody's watching.
So I just we'll leave it up to you. You let our listeners and our.
Please.
Do you want to go that route, or
Sure.
what do you want to do?
Yeah,
you want to do a cleanse?
It's okay.
All right.
I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, that's what she said.
That's what she's saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
So I did. I had a shooting accident at a match, October 10th of 2021. It was a beautiful 80-degree day in October on a Sunday, and one of the last days that we were shooting outdoors. It was because it was so beautiful out. So went to the match. Everything was normal in terms of how it all unfolded, except when after the accident happened and I was thinking about in my recovery how things happened that morning. My spirituality was actually there right from the beginning, because that morning, as I was preparing my bag for the match, I grabbed my hollow points. And I was dragging my hollow points, and I was almost had them in my bag, and I have
For whatever reason,
my hand slid them back, and I grabbed my Full Metal jackets and put those in my bag. Had I not made that decision, we probably wouldn't be here having this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you.
So
whatever.
Yes, it wasn't my
took you that
time.
route.
It doesn't get any closer to it being your time than that experience. It was on a draw. My gun snagged on my holster. It was a class fire. With class fires, which we had talked about, are always my nemesis, right? They just create just a lot of angst, and because it's all about speed and accuracy. This is what you're being, evaluated on and scored on, and everybody's watching. And not that they aren't watching through a regular course of fire, but class fire is a little more intense. And I was feeling quicker than I had been. It was only 6 weeks post my being sick. I had been sick with COVID for a long, long time. So this was only 6 weeks later.
So this is 2021. So
2021.
It's at the beginning of the end of COVID.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, I had that mental fog. I had, my dexterity, things I was not 100%.
Right.
2 weeks prior to that, I had fallen at a match and went down on my knees, and I just laid my gun down. And I said, I'm done. I couldn't get my feet to stop. I couldn't get my feet to, to get the signal.
Nothing was coordinated.
Nothing was
in sync.
coordinated.
Nothing was in sync.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing was in sync. So on the 10th, on October 10th, when this happened, timer goes off. There's always an RO, a range officer that, goes through the course of fire with you, and they, give you the commands as to make ready, and, are you ready? And, timer goes, and you commence your shooting. So my gun snagged on my holster. I remember released the safety, because muscle memory is instant, right? And it's about presenting your gun as quickly as possible. I had released the safety, gun snagged, and then I released the gun down to unsnag it. And on my drawback up, from the guys that were to my right that were recording, they said my finger never touched the trigger. But it was a 2-pound trigger, very, very light. I mean, the tip of my finger, this is how you draw, how you pull the trigger on that. What my other good friends who are instructors and, avid shooters, they've gone through it, evaluating, having seen that snag happen on me before. What they feel like happened was, as I drew up and back, my locking mechanism, my trigger brushed my locking mechanism.
That's triggered this shot.
And it was enough to fire. I have no recollection of my finger hitting the trigger. They said they didn't see my finger hit the trigger. We got rid of the video right away because it wasn't anything that I wanted to relive.
Witness, yeah.
Again. And the shot went off. And your brain shuts things off right away. And I just remember saying, oh, shit. And my oh, shit was because I knew I was disqualified, that my match was over, because I had,
There was the competitor in
that
you.
was the competitor in me, right?
Yeah. How quickly did that change, though?
So in that moment, I remember looking down. I said, oh, shit. And I looked down, fully expecting to see the dirt kicking up from where the round went off. I had shorts on. And time slows and swells in these situations, just like The Matrix, if you've ever seen The Matrix, right? It literally, this felt like it was minutes, but
It was less than a second.
This is milliseconds.
Seconds, right?
Yeah.
So I looked down, expecting to see the dirt kicking up and seeing where the round went. I didn't see that at all. What I saw was the hole in my thigh. And then the next thing I saw was the bullet exiting my lower leg from the left side of my shin, the blood following, and then my leg from my knee down just
Crumbled like
folding over to the right. And then I look up at everybody, and there's a squad of, 12, 14 guys that day, and everybody's got that holy shit, what just happened look on their face. And then my next thought was, when it all connected what just took place, my next thought was, oh my God, I've got 90 seconds. If that's my artery, I've got 90 seconds.
That's
and
what
so,
I asked Renee when.
and
earlier.
in
It
that
was an
time,
artery.
I was falling back, and I was saying, I yelled, help me, help me, help me, because it felt like nobody was doing anything. It felt like all this time was passing, and I was screaming, help me, help me, help me. Don't let me die before I talk to my girls. Call my girls, get them on the phone. Don't let me die before I talk to my girls. And they said I had enough presence of mind that I flipped my safety back on before I released my gun from my hand. My gun, that particular gun is a 2011. It has it was a 30-round mag, so fired one's in the chamber, 28 are following with a
Right.
2-pound trigger. So
Right, with a really light trigger.
very
Yeah,
light trigger.
yeah.
So they said I had enough presence of mind that I flipped my safety back on. The RO didn't even get to yell stop. This is how fast it all was happening. But in my time space, it felt like an eternity. It was so slow.
Yeah.
He dropped to his knees to catch me, so he caught me, so my head didn't hit off the ground, and everybody just went into action. The time in that all that happened, I don't have a ton of
Recollection?
I have recollection, but it's spotty. They said I never lost consciousness. The group that I was with, which are like my brothers, they're just the shooting community is just an incredible community, and we have a lot of first responders in our community, and what a blessing that turned out to be, because instantly everybody just jumped into gear. There was a ceasefire that was called, so the range
Stopped
went
immediately. Yeah.
Everybody stopped immediately. Somebody got a tourniquet on me. The immediate crew that was right around me was a former military, police, a nurse, just guys that have experience. There's a large Filipino community that shoots, and they're primarily male and primarily nurses. And two of the guys that I was shooting with regularly, John and Cedric, and they're my angels, and they know that. They were in the next bay. When they heard the ceasefire, they ran over with their kits right away. And not only are they nurses, but they're emergency room trauma nurses.
Wow. Okay.
So everybody moved out of their way. They jumped in.
So it was a worst case, best case scenario.
Absolutely. Every single best case scenario factor was in place. It was it all aligned. I could not have asked for better care, better tenderness, better immediate care. So they jumped in. One took the entry wound, one took the exit wound, and they did what's called the Israeli wrap, which is the wrap that they use at war, on the war field, to stop the bleed. And that's exactly what happened. And when I was at Oak Park Sportsman's Club in Plainfield, and when Plainfield came to pick me up, the guy said I was on the ground, and everybody, I think there was just a lot going on, obviously, and I was kind of in and out. I remember thinking, I thought I was thinking it, but I must have said it out loud, because I came back to with, not on my fucking watch, somebody shaking me, but I must have said at some point after I connected with the girls, they got my girls on the phone. I remember laying back, and I just kind of closed my eyes, and I just remember this really peaceful, calm feeling, like, okay, this is the day. This is the day I'm going to die. This is how it's going to go. And that's when, not on my fucking watch happened. and I came back to, and
so this was the Plainfield EMT?
No, it was one of the guys. I don't even know who
the
it
guys
was.
you're with?
It's one of the guys I was with. That they were all around me. There was.
Do you know who it is now? Have you ever been able to figure that out?
I don't know. I don't know if it was Joe. I don't know if it was. I'm not sure. Bill Lewis was the RO. He never let me go. My friend Elmer, and he was shocked when I saw him again after that, and that I remembered it. He was just petting my head, and he was giving me water, and just to keep me talking, and he's just literally just petting my head and trying to comfort me. And he said, when I saw him, and I thanked him, for that moment, for that tenderness, and for giving me water, and he's like, I'm going to be really honest with you. He goes, I had a first aid kit, and I looked down at your leg, and I'm going, oh, fuck, this isn't going to do anything.
Right.
He goes, this isn't going to do anything. He goes, I've never felt so helpless in all of my life. And I hugged him, and I said, you couldn't have been more helpful. You couldn't have done anything more than what you did in that moment to let me know I was going to be okay, and that I wasn't alone. Yes, everybody played a part.
So
in
this
that.
is like everything you just described is like the instantaneous part. And you quantified this in the beginning by saying that it seemed this all happened in milliseconds, but to you it seemed like that a slow movie and all this was going on. Couple questions for you, and then we'll continue, because I want to find out a couple things here.
Toast to her.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tim, you're good at the toast. You're the official Toastmaster.
Thank you.
The young lady.
Your presence of mind at the moment that happened. One of the things you said was one of your first thoughts, I believe you said, was,
Oh, my girl.
oh shit. And you also did the I'm disqualified thing.
Yes. Yes, it was an accidental discharge. You are disqualified. Your match is over.
Yeah. But then you quickly realized that it was a lot more pressing than that.
Yes.
And then, as Whiskey Jim just alluded to, your first thought was to get a hold of the girls. I think it's incredible the presence of mind that you had in that short amount of time to process all of that
And put it in
figure
order.
out
Yeah.
where you're at and prioritize, kind of like what I have to do, and I think that speaks a lot to you. I'm not here to blow sunshine up your ass. That's not it. But I'm just, I think it's important. I think what people need to take away from this is that even maybe in one of your darkest possible moments, you were able to put a not a positive light, but think positively or think
I was present.
correctly.
Think normal.
I was present.
to
present.
to
Yeah.
do what needed to be done.
And thank God everybody else around you was prepared.
Yes.
Yes.
They were prepared the way they were. Yeah.
It was. They were incredible. Every
Yeah.
single one of them.
So what I would like to say though is that, and I always have to link it back to kind of what the podcast is about, what Windy City Redneck is about. Not to take away from anything that you're
Right.
doing, but I have to point out the similarities. One of the things that I've always said, and you brought up, one of the things I've always said to One More is that, and I'll try to do this without tearing up. We talked about going out with Northwoods to celebrate Northwoods Matt's life, even on the 1-year anniversary of his taking. You mentioned being around the right people at the right time. Man, if you don't believe, we've talked about this. I am not the most spiritual person in the world. We've talked about when I go to church. We go to the same church occasionally.
Yes.
I don't go with you
Yes.
because you do this. And you have all the reason to do that. But
I receive
You know,
the spirit.
and I
We don't
know
do the wave in
I know.
Chicago.
We go to the same church, but I make sure I don't go when she goes. Because she likes to sit up in the front and this. I like to sit in the back.
I stay in the back.
But I like to sit in the back, and I like the new guy. We got to talk about that.
I've
the
not
new
been
guy.
there since the new guy.
Okay, well the new guy's pretty fucking good. He's like he's almost like Creed, and we'll get into
Creed.
that
Okay.
later.
Creed?
Yeah,
Like
but
the
I'm
band-
telling
like
you,
the band
this
or
is-
Apollo?
The church that we go to,
The band.
and I don't go as often as she does. But
No, and I no,
we
we're,
freaking-
we're on the same.
But
page with
there's
that.
no fucking way I'm going with her because she's hands up, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just not my style.
That's
you
all
know?
right. I didn't know
So
it was
anyway,
my style
but-
till the Holy Spirit moved
Yeah.
me, and then I was like, praise
That was
Jesus.
gonna be my point. Is
Yes.
that and hopefully I never. Hold on 1 second. Let me finish my thought. So, and I've always me and One More have had this conversation. Is that when we go down to deer camp and we go to the barn and everything.
You're gonna quit deer camp.
There is nobody. No, there's nobody that. No, dude, it's the only thing I've invited you to. That you
church or deer camp.
anything Windy City Redneck. And no. I'm being serious here. Is that there's a certain thing. There is no group I would rather be.
Can I raise my hands at deer camp?
If shit's gonna go down, there's nobody that I would rather be around than this man here and all the guys that hang around at the barn. All the Windy City
talked about-
Redneck
we
Nation.
talked about
We got
talked about it.
paramedics. That,
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Yes.
if shit's going to hit the fan, I think, like what you're talking about, you had your angels on one side.
Yes.
You had your preparation on the other side, which
Yes.
are paramedics. So you
There
had
was no room
everybody
for the devil
worked
in
in
that one, right?
you know,
Yes,
everybody worked together.
it
and-
all came together.
yeah,
Every
yeah.
single
So
one
you-
of them.
And that night you had your Cardinals with you that day.
I did.
Oh, your Cardinals took care of you.
They did.
But I'm not even
I agree.
talking about the fact that those guys are paramedics. One more. I'm talking about the fact that if there's nothing,
Well, you said
that
prepared, though.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing
I followed
better than being around people that one care for you, love you, and are
Yes.
willing to do anything for you. That's how I feel about when we're down there and we're all together. When we go pheasant hunting, when we're deer hunting, if we're fishing, if we're just down there to play beanbags, and a guy, something goes down, and you get what I'm saying is, I think that sometimes, as much as I'm not one of those extreme believers, I do believe that there's divine intervention up there somewhere, and you were surrounded by the right people at the right time. And when you surround yourself with good people that have good intentions, the worst possible scenarios can turn out to be your story and
Yes.
your gift of I don't want to make it sound cliche or anything, but I can look at you in the eye and I can honestly say this. You got a second chance that most people don't get.
I know.
And you're
Yeah,
smiling.
and you choose to drink
and-
Moscato.
What's
and
that?
you know, yeah. I know you well enough that I can say that to you without you being offended, and you get it. I get it.
I totally
think,
get it.
Yeah,
I keep
and
asking God to just
That's why
please
she's up in the front pew.
yeah,
send down a scroll.
And
I
that's
keep
why I'm
asking
always
him,
in the back.
go follow this direction. No, it doesn't get any closer. It was not my time, and it doesn't get any closer to that than that moment, right? And I'm so, and I know I'm blessed. People have said, "Oh, you're lucky." I'm like, no. Luck has nothing to do with this. This is all about being blessed. I was blessed to have the right people at the right time with me in that moment that made the right decisions. And then even, when the medics got there, I was on the ground, and the guys told me this afterwards that they said they saw the wraps on my legs, and they're like, well, all right, where are the medics here? Because those are perfect and we're not touching them. Literally, those wraps were on my legs till I got to Loyola, and I didn't get to Loyola till much later in the day. Plainfield picked me up and brought me to Bolingbrook, which I didn't know they even had a hospital, let alone trauma.
and
Holy
Bolingbrook
Cross,
said
right.
no way, they couldn't do
So,
anything for you.
No, it wasn't that at all. No, it was they. So they stabilized me. They started the meds, and then they did the test. They did a CT to ascertain the damage, to see whether or not I needed to go into surgery or not. Once they saw that my artery was not involved and the bleeding was under control, they sent everything over to Loyola, because Loyola, as for all the negatives of this city, Cook County, maybe the state as a whole, the one thing we have going for us, and I'm so grateful for it, is we have
The trauma units are
incredible
amazing.
hospitals.
Yeah,
Not only do we
especially
have
Community.
absolutely not just the best in the country, probably some of the
Chirac.
best in the world.
Chirac.
And so our elite military come to Loyola and to Cook County to train
Yep.
for going out on the battlefields because of the level of gunshot wounds that we
Yeah.
see. So as negative as that could be, it certainly was a positive for me. So once Bolingbrook determined that I was not at risk, stable, they sent everything over to Loyola. Loyola reviewed it. They sent over an advanced trauma unit, which is basically an ER room on wheels with a nurse, and then they transported me from Bolingbrook to Loyola. And at the time, I was 55, and and my doctor, Dr. Cohen, ended up telling me this later on. He got the report and all that. He's like, 55-year-old female. Yeah, we'll throw a couple rods in there. We'll give her a new knee. She'll, be on a walker the rest of her life. And then I get into the emergency room, and he comes in and he meets me, and he was like, let's hold up. He got my history, and then he's like, yep, nope, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to, he knew I was stable. I needed blood. I ended up with 7 blood transfusions. I had 2 prior to surgery, 3 during surgery, 2 after surgery. And he got a team of doctors together. I want to say it was 5 or 6 doctors. And I went in the next day, and I was under about 6 hours. And they literally rebuilt my femur along. They used a titanium plate. So he said it was a clean shot. So he opened it from the entry wound to the exit wound.
Oh, wow.
It was a clean line, and he said there was no need to cut you up
And
anymore.
you've shared the pictures with me, so I can attest.
I've got pictures.
yes,
I wear
yes.
shorts.
I'm good.
Yeah.
It's
I believe you.
yeah, it's all good. And
Yeah.
so even ending up in Dr. Cohen's hands and his care, that was not just a by chance, one-off sort of thing. I fully believe I was placed in his hands, and he released me 18 months post all of this, which will be 18 months was a year ago in April this coming April will be a year since I've seen Dr. Cohen last. And I remember this was last April, coming out of the x-ray with the tech, and it was our first time seeing each other without a mask on because we had to be wearing masks, right? So I come around the corner, he's standing outside my room, and he's like,
Well, I know your eyes.
"Hey,
I
look
know
at
your
you."
eyes.
Right. He's like, "Hey, look at you." I go, "I know, what?" Right? I go, "What about you?" And he's like, "Holy cow." He's like, "You don't even have a limp." I go, "I've got this awesome doctor you should know about." I was like, "Let me tell you about him." It was very emotional to know that that was going to be my last time seeing him, because I didn't have the words to thank him for the decisions he made for me. And he stopped me. And he said, "I didn't do anything." He goes, "All I did was put you back together." He said, "The rest has been you."
It was on you.
And I said, "I get
Yeah.
that." I said, "I do." I said, "But the decisions you made for me gave me the
In the heat of the battle.
opportunity
Yeah.
to be able to use my determination, use what my will, whatever's gotten me to this point. Had you not made those decisions right off the bat for me, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to recover in this way."
I do have to stop you and remind you of one thing, or
What's
point
that?
out one thing,
Oh, here we go.
is that he's absolutely right, because I remember as you were going through this and you would fill me in and you would tell me what was going on and everything. You're not cut from the same mold that other people are. You have to go back
Yeah.
to who you are, Yogini, and go back to episode 1 when you talked about your thankfulness for coming to America. You're probably, and I'm not blowing sunshine up your ass, I'm just telling you this. It goes back to the Cardinal thing. You know, the Cardinals are here for a reason. They come back to visit you, and I mean, your story. You go back to episode 1 and what you did for that. Episode 2, episode 3, and your story is not just those episodes. Your life is not just those episodes, but it
Right.
all evolves into this thing. Is that your doctor is 100% correct. I've never met the guy. You've talked about him, of him highly, and you've kind of kept me filled in as we've talked about it and stuff.
Right.
Is that if anyone was going to beat this dude, it was you that was going to do it with your
Well,
positive attitude
well, that's where
and
I
everything
got-
that you've done.
Can I cut in? I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, when you said he kind of seen how you are, did he like find out that like you did yoga, seen you were actually and physically fit, and
Yes.
decided to change how he was going to treat your leg?
Yes.
And he didn't like, we're not just going to throw some rods in here and give her a
Right.
brace and stuff like
Yes,
that.
I think
So
he got the history of me.
So-
And when he put all that together and he made that decision, he knew I was, safe and stable, and I needed blood and all of that. My recovery on the front end was much longer because of the decision he made, because putting in the titanium plates and piecing, literally, he found every fragment of bone and put it back together. So I ended up with a 10.5-inch titanium plate for my femur to heal with, a 1-inch one beneath my knee to stabilize my tibial plateau. Because when the bullet entered, it went. So thank God, the full metal jacket. It went straight down, and it hit the tibial plateau, and that slowed it down, and it made it ricochet, and it exited. So it notched out actually a chunk of bone from my tibial plateau. He said that was the only part he wasn't able to repair because it was disintegrated. He goes, but it'll heal on its
It was
own.
the impact part.
Yes, it was the impact, and he goes, and that's what it stopped it, and it ricocheted. Had it not hit that point, it would have gone through to my foot. It would have, who knows what, but it did. It exited cleanly. So it was the 10.5-inch titanium plate, the 1-inch, and then 22 titanium screws.
But you weren't consulted on any of this.
I was not consulted on
okay.
anything. I had no
But-
idea what my leg was going to look like when I woke up. I had funny story. I was in pre-op. And the anesthesiologist comes in. So there was a whole team of doctors before the surgeon. They came in. It was the neurology group and the hematology group, because I have this little blood disorder that I don't reproduce my hemoglobin on my own well, so that's why I needed transfusions. So many transfusions. So they were following me to make sure that I was safe, and then the neurology group came in to do the nerve block so that I would be, painless for as long as possible. So then after that group left, and I'm in this room by myself, and I'm in and out. I'm on morphine, I'm on fentanyl. It's just round the clock. This is what they've got me on, and it was fine till somebody would touch me. As soon as somebody would touch me, I would just bolt upright, and just let out the most inhumane screech that could come out of a person. It was
So was that the nerves, like their only way
just
of releasing?
yes, it was. It was pain unlike anything I've ever experienced in all of my life. I was told that I'd said at one point that I would rather have given birth 1,000 times back to back.
So you got Tourette's?
Yes, and I did, and I guess I was very apologetic about that. I wasn't swearing at any one person. I would just scream and swear, and the nurses would be holding my hand. They're like, honey, you can scream all you want. You've got all the right to scream. And it wasn't directed at anybody. It was just the release. It was just what was
That's so different than my
happening.
swearing.
It was happening. What was happening in my body. So the anesthesiologist comes in and he introduces himself. Everybody's behind masks, so I don't know his face, just his eyes. And he tells me who he is and, goes over, what's happening, and asks me who I am and do I know what we're doing today. And I said yes. And, so I had to repeat to him what was happening. And he's holding my hand and he said, okay, he goes, so do you have any concerns or any questions for me? And I said, I do. And he said, what's that? And I said, make sure you bring me back, because if this didn't take me out, you're not taking me out.
That's awesome.
And he squeezed my hand and he goes, I'll see you in a few hours. I go, okay.
So when you got the final bill, there was no charge for the anesthesia?
Yes. Yes.
Counts.
Yes. It was,
So, a couple things. One, I have to say, and I don't know if you call it an amazing story, but the one thing that is intriguing to me is that how, when you went through all of that, how you can recall all of these memories and all the things that went down with all this detail,
With clarity.
with the clarity that you had, is amazing. And I still want to go back to, I'm just absolutely blown away at even with the way that you tell this story. I don't think many people could tell the story the way that you're telling it now,
With such detail.
with detail and everything, but still your tone is incredibly positive. Your tone is not woe's me. It's not the woe's me story of Yogini. It's everything is in that positive light and everything that you've got going on. So I want to ask you this question. All of that happened, and it's all negative, and you can look at all the ways that it goes in a bad direction. You've taken away probably a lot from this to be thankful for. All the people that helped you that day that you were surrounded by, and I want to go back to your daughters, your kids. Do you think, I know it's changed them, and it's changed you dramatically. I know that.
yes.
There's that phrase out there with every negative things, there's X amount of positives that come out of it. You would be one of those people that could say that this actually is the case here, but can you kind of like expound on it and just say how that?
I didn't die.
Yeah.
Right? Love that.
I didn't die, and I have 2 legs. So lesser than was not going to be, that wasn't part of the equation.
Wasn't in your, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I was not going to be that person. I had, so my yoga life, my lifestyle, it's not that you ever want to be prepared for an injury of that nature, of that magnitude, but I was. All my body had to do was heal my thigh, right? I didn't have a lot of the ailments and issues that a lot of people our age have, right? And I feel fortunate. I have my own little sets of things, but I live my life in a certain way so that I can live as healthy as possible and drug free and medicine free. And
I think that doctor's seen that.
he absolutely saw it. So he, is
that holistic? Is that what the basis of holistic health is? where you don't use medicines?
Oh no! I was on a lot of drugs. Oh,
I believe we already mentioned.
no.
fentanyl,
Talking about
morphine.
I was on a lot
Alright,
of drugs.
now-
So
and I'm not just saying, but Tim's been to a lot of Grateful Dead concerts, so he's now.
But-
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not on anything. I don't take anything. So from the morphine and fentanyl, then I went, post surgery, they had me on Norco, they had me on all kinds of stuff. And within so I was in the hospital, I was in Loyola for 7 days. I went to rehab
Wow,
for,
that's it.
that's it. And
Good
then
for
I went
you.
to rehab for 2 weeks. And then I was at home recovering, and it was a full year. So within 3 days, maybe less, I had them take me off of
Yeah,
Norco.
I believe in that too. Yeah.
Because I said I
Why
cannot
put yourself in a
I
situation?
cannot
Yeah.
I said I can't feel, and I can't help myself, and I can't help them being the medical team, help me. I couldn't lift myself out of the bed. I couldn't, my leg was immobilized. It was, in a brace. It couldn't be moved.
Yeah, I remember you sending me the pictures.
It was
and,
very,
yeah,
nobody,
And you almost want, that's good pain to have. The healing pain
Yes.
is good pain to have.
to be able to recognize
Yes,
it, so
that
you know what
yes,
you're up
yes.
against.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
and
they
you know
changed-
the worst it's going to get is what it is right now.
Exactly.
And tomorrow will be better. And tomorrow will be better.
Ask
Yes.
a question real quick.
Yeah.
Because you were raised by your parents, you had that positive attitude your whole life that made you better.
Stronger.
I mean, you had the loving, healing feeling, correct?
Yes.
That's important.
It's very important. It's a foundation, right?
Right.
We all have a foundation, and my parents were, very strong, and they. I had a lot of reasons to continue to live on.
So you had that experience. Like my parents, we were very strict.
Yes,
We were raised that way. I mean, I'm the same way. Like,
right.
I mean, I believe in outside medicine.
Yeah.
That- I mean, yeah.
I used the medicine the modern medicine had available for me because it was a necessity, right?
So basically, you're saying you were drugged up after, not before. That's.
Oh
No,
no, right? No. No.
You're like, oh no, I was doing drugs. I was like, oh.
No,
I
no.
believe she's saying the opposite.
No, I
So
couldn't.
you were next to him at the Dead concert.
Not at all. No, I couldn't wait. I
We don't
do
talk about
not.
that.
I do not like to feel
Yeah.
out of control at all. I could not wait to get off of my meds.
How long did it take you to get off them?
I've been off of everything probably at least a year.
Okay.
At least a year. So it was just. So it was.
So does I don't mean to finish. I'm sorry.
Well, so I had a second surgery. They reopened. My. So what was happening is I was recovering, and I was making a greater recovery than what they anticipated.
Way
Right.
ahead of schedule.
So my pain was increasing versus decreasing because my range of motion came back to a point that it shouldn't have.
So you push it harder than early on. You
all of it. It just I just was able to make that sort of recovery. So
Right.
as my range of motion was coming back, it was a lot of bone on metal.
Oh wow.
So He
that's
knew
where the pain came from.
the pain came from, and I had a lot of numbing,
Yeah.
numbness in my on my right
Were
side.
they hoping like cartilage would grow around it to separate the
Well,
bone from metal?
it did to a it did. So here's what happened. The pain was getting worse. I didn't want to live with that pain.
Yeah.
So I talked to the doctor about it. I said, can we take this out?
Yeah.
And he was like, wait a minute. He goes, we
We're
don't
not there
really even consider taking hardware out, let alone talking about it before the year mark. And I said, well, I can't. I don't want to live like this. If there's an opportunity, and he saw that it was going to hinder me. It was
Right.
hindering my progress. It was, the numbness wasn't going away, the pain in my foot. I couldn't feel my right glute. It was hindering a lot of my progress. So, he held me off to 9 months. So 9 months post my accident, post my first surgery, I went back into surgery, and he reopened the incision. and he removed the 10.5-inch titanium plate. He removed the 1-inch plate, and he removed 16 of the 22 screws. There are 6 left that are deep within the bone and
So
joint.
you don't need that titanium plate.
No,
anymore.
it's gone.
Wow, good for you.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's my show and tell piece now.
Right.
So here's
You own it.
Here you go.
so my
Did you get it engraved? Like,
not yet. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet.
like an anniversary year.
Well-
Gotta
5
get it
year.
signed by the doctor.
Well, here's the doctor asked.
So do you
if
walk
I
around just going, "Hi, I'm Yogini. Here's my bling," and you just throw all your metal on it?
How do you get through the airport with a fourth?
Yeah.
Well, titanium doesn't.
We got to make her
set
like,
off.
who's the Flavor Flav? We're gonna take all of your shit and put it on
a clock.
a big necklace. And you're gonna walk around. You're not gonna be able to get through TSA. by the
Well,
way.
here's my two worlds,
Yeah.
right? So the yoga community, when they saw all my hardware, were like, "Oh, that's so beautiful! You should make a sculpture out of it, or a wind
Yeah,
chime
they did.
or
They did
something,
my
right?"
body. Yeah. My leg.
And then the yoga or the shooting community was like, "Oh, you should make
Make a target.
you should make a katana out of that. We can put a blade on it. We could do
The Terminator.
totally different." And that's
Yes, different mindset.
that's balance to me, right? That's
Which brings it back to what Renee was saying, how your whole aura is one world. It's one world that is the yoga community, and one world that is the shooting community, and they kind of don't always coexist.
They don't.
And in this, and I try in my life to have them coexist. And in this instance, with my accident, they did coexist. They both
had to.
came
They had
together.
to. They had
You know, that term of, it takes a village. I didn't want to know I had a village, but I'm so grateful. I found out I have an incredible village, and they came out of the woodwork from all, from one more driving by to make sure that I was safe when I was on my couch by myself and my door was unlocked because somebody else was going to be coming in. It was a changing of the guards, Renee coming by, everybody.
I didn't know you that. I would have come by too.
Thank you. But I mean, it was.
He would have brought you a
I
Malort.
would've
and
brought
that
you
would have
a
been.
It took a village.
I would
That would have been a
brought you
fucked up
good
situation. It would have been a setback.
You
Dr.
mentioned.
Cohen would have been, "Who the fuck is this whiskey chimp? Why is he derailing this? And why doesn't he believe in cardinals?"
Right, exactly. So you talk about my ability, being able to speak about it in a manner that I do. So that came with help. One of my good yoga colleagues, we studied together as teachers, and we will practice together. And she's an incredible person. And when she heard what happened, she's a clinical therapist, and she specializes in, and I'm going to get it wrong, it's like rapid response therapy. And what it is it's a therapy that you go into immediately, that they bring you right back to the moment of trauma so that you can deal with the emotions. And the premise is to avoid PTSD.
Yeah. Done.
And
long
later
term
on,
and delayed. Delayed.
exactly.
Delayed. Yeah.
So what was happening for me is I couldn't talk about it without crying. I had a tremendous amount of guilt. I had a lot of guilt because that morning, a couple days prior, my sister sent out a text, "Hey, we're having a birthday party for the boys," and the boys were turning 18 and 15, whatever they were. It wasn't like they were little kids, and it was that's
That's a
Remember
whole
that
nother.
part?
Well, no, I mean.
So,
yeah,
but I decided, I called her. I'm like, "Hey, I really want to go to this match. I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to go out to eat with the guys. I'll just head right over," because she was doing a brunch. I'll head right over after the match.
It's not like they're turning 5.
Right. And I said, "I'll head right over for that."
I'll meet you at the end of it. Yeah, well,
and she's like, "Don't worry about it. Yeah, we'll be
it's
here.
great.
Just we'll
it's not like
see
you're
you."
going to shoot yourself.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was experiencing the guilt of
Too soon?
having
Sorry.
made
Yeah.
that decision. I was experiencing the guilt of my daughters getting that phone call.
I'm
I,
sorry.
oh no, it's all good. I was experiencing the guilt of my guys, my friends who had to witness that trauma. That we all know the potential. We're running around with loaded guns. There's a risk, right? It could happen. I'm not the first person it happened to. I'm sure I'm not going to be the last person. Does it happen often? No, but it does happen, and it did happen, and you don't ever expect it to happen to somebody when you're present, and let it be somebody that you care about. And these guys care about me as their friend. They're like I'm like a sister to them, and that was really hard for me to know what they went through. And then once they knew I was okay, and then they were able to to start talking about it, their own trauma and what they had to go through, and then second guessing themselves. Did we act right? Did we respond right?
It sounds like they acted perfectly.
So my whole in my recovery, I was adamant about getting back. So Marina, who came to the hospital to do the sessions of therapy with me, so that before I even went to rehab, she was there and we had these sessions so that I could start coping with the incident and I could start talking about it and making peace with it, right? And so that I could move on. I could not, if I just crumbled up into a ball and just kept crying, I couldn't have made the progress that I've made.
Well,
And
that's not in your personality to cry, curl into a ball.
But some people,
I
some
curl up
people,
in a ball a lot.
Yeah,
and some people have a trauma. Too.
yeah, you curled up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Well, trauma
I think
is,
it's the next episode.
Yeah.
Right. It was necessary for me to make the advances that I did and to be able to look at everybody in my life and not only thank them for being there for me in that capacity, all of them, from my daughters to my siblings, my friends, everybody.
I'm going to cut you off because you're going down the route
What we're
that
going to lead to?
that we need to close with.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and I think you're recognizing that too. And I'm
60 minutes
politely
into this.
trying to stop
That's
you.
perfect.
Because I think unfortunately I will just say to you, we're not going to get to your whatever the
guess
fuck
not.
my cards are thing tonight. Okay.
I was told it was my episode, but okay.
I know. I
sorry.
am so
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
I am so
Mine's about
sorry.
drinking Malort,
As
so-
usual, a woman steals the show.
I had
wow.
no idea. I had
No,
idea.
no, no.
It's
And
all
it's
good.
that, and I know it's good, and I say that jokingly.
We don't get to drink Malort.
No, we're
No,
going
no,
to. We're going to
We
do
are
that
going
in
to.
the
We're
end.
gonna do a Chicago handshake.
But
Yes.
Come on.
you're starting to go, and I think it's important. We're going to take a quick break,
Okay.
and we're going to go into. You know how we always close the show. We've done it a couple times
Shout-outs.
together, and you've listened to it, and we do shout outs and we thank everyone. And I think this time will be a little bit different. We'll just see how it goes. But you're starting to go that direction, and I just think it should be separated from what. So I just want to do a couple questions,
Okay.
real quick. We'll do this in a couple seconds. Do you all of this trauma and everything you went through? Just a quick answer. I don't think you could have done it differently, but if you had to do it again and you had to second guess yourself, would there be anything you'd do differently, other than not go to the match that day? I mean, you said there was divine intervention. You didn't have
Yes.
the hollow points and everything.
No, there's
I mean, the
nothing-
Cardinals were on your side. Was there
nothing I
anything
could-
else you could have done?
other than not go that day? But
Do you just attribute it
But-
to bad
no,
luck?
but that's
I-
where
I really- I don't think you can't second guess that. You
But
can't
that's
second
where
guess
I
that.
was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's where I was supposed to be for whatever reason.
And everybody
surrounded by
and,
those
and
people.
everybody else around you was supposed
yes,
to be there too.
that's
And-
where I
and-
was
and
supposed
it
to
was-
be that day.
yeah.
Because
There's your karma.
Was there anyone
Yeah.
that day that you were surprised was there that wasn't supposed to be there?
no, it was my usual crew.
It was usually
No.
the crew.
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah. So that's what I bring up to you. It's the crew. It's the guys
Yeah,
you're
it's the
surrounded
usual-
by.
it's-
It's like these guys here when we do this.
Yeah.
It just sometimes just maybe it's not the right place at the right time. It's the usual place at the usual time, and there's
Yeah.
nobody else
Luckily,
that's going to look
they're
out for you.
accurate and they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
Because I was not in any shape to make any decision of any kind.
So-
Everybody that was I was supposed to be where I was that day, and everybody around me was supposed to be there with
Yeah.
me.
So a couple more points, and then we're going to close this, and then we'll
Okay.
get into the wrap up. Dr. Cohen, you've talked about him admirably
He is
several
the
times.
Tom Brady of
Yes.
orthopedic surgery. That's how I refer to him. I
And,
hope.
and you've off at the times we've talked about it is that he refers to you as just this miraculous thing that has happened.
Yes.
Um,
He asked that if when
will
the time
you
comes.
will you be the reason he retires?
Oh no.
Do you
he's-
think he thinks that you're what you've achieved with him?
No,
will be just,
he's-
You're the reason he
He's-
keeps going.
He's young and
Yeah.
he has so many people to save. He has so many people to
Yeah.
help. No, that I hope maybe somewhere along the way he brings me back and says, "Hey, I need you to have a conversation with somebody who
That went through it.
that
Something
you
similar.
know I know could
Can use it.
can use it."
And I believe you made him a believer in the yoga thing, didn't you?
He did. I did. I did.
Yoga now?
But does he believe in cardinals?
I don't
Has
know.
he
We didn't
been
talk
in
about
your
the-
class yet?
No, he's not been to my class. He does do yoga, but he
just
he did say that when you write that book, make sure I get the first copy. I said autographed, and I did say to him, so.
I have an editor for you.
I know. So
She's
real
really
quick,
good.
The last time I saw him was when he released me, and it was 2 months prior. In February of last year, I went to Costa Rica. It was 15 months post surgery. I went to Costa Rica and I surfed. I got on a surfboard.
I remember that.
So I went with
you
a
sent
group.
me a video.
I went with a group, and I thought I'm gonna go
Yeah.
because why not? I'm alive.
Because you
I've
can.
got two
'Cause you
legs.
can.
You know,
looked
so
up behind, yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
so I got my surfing was no surfing, right? I got on the board, I got up, and I
off.
wiped out. And so the
But
current,
you did it.
I did it, right? But so this is what, and I told, and Dr. Cohen was right there with me because the board is going one direction. It's tethered to my healing leg. The board is going one direction.
That was
The
a great idea, by the way.
The current is taking me in the other direction. My leg is saying, I'm not going any which fucking way you want to go. And what I did is I just let my body relax. I just stopped and I just relaxed. The board came back to me. I was able to right myself up, and I turned around and I started heading for the beach. And the thought was, dear God, I could just imagine going back to Dr. Cohen saying, well, I snapped at surfing
yes,
this time.
I broke my leg in half. Yes.
And him going, get out,
What the fuck were you thinking?
get out.
Yeah.
So I
But you
told him
didn't.
that, but
You
I
didn't.
didn't.
You didn't.
And I didn't snap my leg, and
yeah, and you enjoyed the surf and the
Yes.
sun, and
I told him, I said, I went right back to the sand. I stopped the lady with the pina coladas. I booked my 1 hour massage. I got on my chair, and I was all good.
That's how I do my vacations.
and you
Yes.
had all your priorities
Yes,
in
I did.
line.
Very
which
much
is-
so.
So
which is-
I have a
which is
question
awesome.
for you.
Okay. Oh, here we go.
No,
I think we need to
listen.
take a break.
This is like the Emmys.
Yeah, we're like an hour in.
Here we go. This is like the Emmys. Here's your cutoff music. This is Windy City Redneck, the podcast, season 4, episode 2, appropriately titled "That's What She Said," and I think you get it now. And we don't mean it in the comedic way. We'll be back in a little bit. We're going to wrap things up with Yogini. This is Windy City Redneck, the podcast vodcast. We'll be right back.